Good evening. My name is Faraday. The title of this lecture is The Digital World.
During the last century and a half, there have been great strides in communication technology, from telephone and Morse code through radio and television to the digital world of mobile phones, computers and the internet. The Faraday lecture shows how digital technology allows hugely increased quantities of data to be stored and transmitted all over the world in seconds.
Digital communication is finding its way into every aspect of our lives. Plymouth is the home port of the round-the-world yachtsman Pete Goss. Recently he was involved in the amazing rescue of a fellow yachtsman, and it was digital communications that made it all possible.
The Vendée round-the-world yacht race is one of the toughest for single-handed sailors. Pete Goss was one of the competitors, and all was going well until the boats were suddenly hit by a hurricane. Many boats got into serious trouble, and for one of them, it was a disaster.
My boat suddenly upside down very hard.
The Frenchman, Raphael Dinelli, had capsized. His boat was designed to right itself automatically, but it didn't, and he was trapped inside. He was able to send out a mayday call that was picked up by satellite. It showed he was 700 miles north of Antarctica, far beyond the reach of the nearest emergency services.
Raphael was approximately 1,200 miles southwest of Fremantle, Western Australia. The situation posed a real problem.
Only one person was close enough to save him, his fellow competitor, Pete Goss.
I just got a little message on my laptop, basically saying it was a mayday. The definition of a mayday is it's a life-threatening situation, which you just have to go and help. We were communicating via BT Inmarsat system, which basically, if you imagine email via satellite rather than your telephone line, that's basically what it is. And I had a little laptop, and I was getting my messages up through that. If you think I was the other side of the world now, deep in the Southern Ocean, right on the limit of the horizon of the satellite. If you imagine that the satellite is looking at a globe and its footprint can only go so far. A, we were on the edge of that. B, it was hurricane force conditions, very cold, wind chills get to -30 on deck. Waves were breaking over the boat to the extent, whereas it is nice and bright now, if the wave went over it would go dark, which gives you an idea as to how far the aerial was being put underwater.
The satellite acts like a mirror in the sky, reflecting and redirecting radio information beamed up to it. It was handling thousands of messages simultaneously, as well as keeping contact between race headquarters and Pete Goss.
I was getting detailed every half-hour weather forecasts from Meteor France. I was getting information from MRCC Australia, who were coordinating it. I was getting information from Philippe Jantot, the race organiser.
Raphael was in a desperate situation. His boat had righted itself, but was now sinking. On the second day, the Australian Air Force spotted him, but they couldn't pick him up. They dropped him a life raft with a message that Pete Goss was only 10 hours away. Now suffering acute hypothermia, could Raphael survive another night?
I have many problems in the night because my muscle begin to contract and it's not possible for me to move. I am very afraid if the life raft capsizes.
I got back to his vicinity at about midnight on the second night. I could feel his presence. I knew he was there, but I couldn't find him.
Then, against all the odds, at first light the next morning, Pete Goss received another message pinpointing Raphael's position. The exhausting search was over.
Fantastic. All I could see was his eyes. I'll never forget his eyes and the depth of emotion and gratitude.
Raphael had reason to be thankful. The digital technology that had saved his life had only just become available.
5 years ago, Raphael would have started the race and never come back. He might have sunk in the Bay of Biscay, Southern Ocean, could have been anywhere. We'd have had no idea what happened to him. Digital communications is the backbone of all the safety on the boat.
Pete's new boat is the biggest catamaran ever built, designed to cut through waves and survive the worst conditions. It will carry a lot more digital equipment with the ability to broadcast race progress via the internet.
I think the big steps are the equipment's much lighter. In terms of energy, it's much more efficient. But also we can send a lot more data. And that's a really key thing. We can do live television interviews off the boat. In terms of entertainment, you can actually virtually be on there. Somebody anywhere in the world, at home in your front room, can link directly to the boat. And we can run the website from the boat. We can even take video footage and interviews and put it straight onto the internet. And it's absolutely immediate.
The digital world is expanding very fast, and all you need is a mobile phone to join in. You can get digital mobile phones that are in fact mini computers, allowing you to surf the internet, order a pizza, or even send and receive live video. But what is digital?
Digital communication uses a very simple language. The binary code consists of just two symbols, 0 and 1. Mobile phones, computers, TV and fax all share this common language, which can be carried by electrical signals, radio waves and even light. The binary zeros and ones are placed onto a radio carrier wave. A huge variety of signals have to negotiate the one link at the same time, so they have to be multiplexed. In other words, all the messages are mixed up together and then separated out at the other end.
Good evening, my name's Keith Diamond. Now we've got a demonstration of multiplexing. What we have here are two messages, either so that we can differentiate between them. One's in red and the other one is in green. We've got two messages, but we've only got one channel, only one conveyor belt. So what we're going to do is, Monica, you're going to be the multiplexer. And then, Jeffrey, what you're going to be is the demultiplexer. Okay? So that we can create some order in this, we've got some clock signals. Okay? Now, we represent the clock signals here by lights. Okay? And you can see that we've got a red light and a green light. And of course, you know what's going to come now. When you get a red light, I want you to put a red block onto the conveyor belt. And when there's a green light, a green block. Okay? Now, Jeffrey, what I want you to do is when the blocks reach this end here, I want you to take them off. Green block, green shelf, red block, red shelf. And I'm going to switch on the conveyor belt now. Now, you can see we started with our two messages there. We passed them down here by multiplexing, and then we separated them. You'll see that they're in exactly the same order there as they were over there. Thank you very much indeed for helping with the demonstration. And if you go down over there now, okay? That's it. Thank you very much. We can now see with a graphic what's happening with our multiplexing. We can see that we've got the switch at the input, and that switch is selecting the two channels, the red and the green, and then we have a synchronized switch at the other end, which is actually separating those channels, and again, the messages are split appropriately.
Multiplex signals are being used to break down the distance between faraway places. At this hospital in Bembridge, Isle of Wight, they've set up a link via telephone lines to Queen Charlotte's Hospital in London, so that picture and sound can be sent digitally in both directions, as we saw on stage. A pregnant patient is having a routine scan in Bembridge, but she can also be seen by the specialist in London, and they can see and talk to each other in real time.
Well, I've just been looking at your scan with Karen. We had very good views of the baby's face and heart, all its little toes and fingers, and it all looked to be very good.
Okay.
Have you got any questions you'd like to ask me?
No, not really. That's been quite helpful.
This form of video conferencing saves the patient a long trip to London and allows the hospital to offer specialist services which it couldn't otherwise afford. The ultrasound scanner produces a picture of the womb which is converted to digital for sending down the line. The specialist can clearly see what she's looking for, but to most of us the pictures look a bit fuzzy. Whenever signals are transmitted from one place to another, small distortions get added, which we call noise.
All electronic systems suffer from a low-level random voltage called electronic noise that gets added to the signal and contaminates it. The effect is particularly bad if our signal is a low-level signal itself. Behind me you can see an analog and a digital signal, and the same signals when they've been contaminated by noise. Now, for the analog signal, once it's been contaminated, it's very difficult to get back to the original shape of the signal. You've lost the information. But with a digital signal, it is possible to look at the center of each bit and make an electronic decision whether that bit is a 0 or a 1. Provided the noise isn't too much, you can get these decisions right and restore the original digital signal perfectly. And this is what we mean by noise immunity. Of course, if there is a lot of noise, then some of these decisions you get wrong, and it turns out that digital systems either work near perfectly or not at all. And at that such high noise levels, the analog systems would also be pretty useless. Now, we've got a couple of demonstrations for you to show noise immunity for video signals. Now, you see two pictures here. One on the left-hand side is a digital video signal, and the one on the right-hand side is an analog signal. They've both been contaminated by noise. But here, noise isn't something you can hear with your ears, but it's the same random voltage manifesting itself as these snowflakes that you're getting on the analog signal. The little inset pictures are showing the actual raw signal modulated and with the noise added. But if you look at the pictures themselves, you see as the noise gets more and more, the analog signal is getting poorer and poorer. In fact, if this was your television, you would have sent it back by now, or you would have canceled your cable subscription. While the analog signal gets worse, the digital signal doesn't seem to have been affected. As you can see, the digital signal remains perfect.
The Galileo mission to explore Jupiter was launched in December 1990. It passed the north pole of our moon and sent back a unique mineral survey. All the data from space exploration relies on our ability to reconstruct digital signals and get rid of the noise which distorts them over vast distances and time. On its 3-year journey to Jupiter, travelling at 87,000 miles an hour, it beamed back to Earth detailed pictures of the asteroid Ida, only 34 miles in length. Arriving at Jupiter, it observed the impact of a comet hitting the surface of the planet. Galileo continues to send back useful information more than 10 years after launch. Back on Earth, digital signals are getting on with the job of ensuring there's always food on the shelf. The barcode is a digital signal. It identifies each product, whether it's 2 litres of milk, a hunk of cheese, or a pack of pita bread. At the checkout, the laser reads the barcode, and as well as adding up your bill, it starts to reorder what you just bought. From all 420 stores, the details of the day's sales are passed digitally to head office. They're sorted by computer, and orders for restocking are sent out to hundreds of warehouses around the country. At each depot, the correct goods are placed on the lorry and dispatched to the store. The whole reordering process is done automatically. Keeping track of all 20,000 product lines is a huge operation. Without the barcode, the store would quickly grind to a halt. The system works very well, but there is a human price to pay. It requires very few people to work it, and so there are less jobs. At the same time, the digital world is bringing new opportunities to people with disabilities. Computers that you can talk to and systems that speak for you have been developing fast.
Tony, how important is your voice synthesizer to you?
My computer, which is called the Chameleon, is very important to me because it gets things done quicker. Without my computer, I could not test all of my GCSS or even take them. Without it, I could not tell people how I feel.
Tony Cook has cerebral palsy and relies entirely on his voice synthesizer. He has to type out each word, and the computer produces sounds based on the spelling.
I find it very upsetting when I am halfway through a sentence for someone and they walk away because they have given up waiting. When people walk away, I feel like I have failed for not doing it fast enough for them. A lot of people think this is a TV in front of me or a video screen or a computer which I play games on it all day long. They don't understand my computer helps me to talk to people and be sociable.
This is it, we're on our way. I'm heading for a better day. It's high time we got it made.
Operating the computer is a slow business when he wants to do his shopping quickly. Using just 2 buttons, Tony has to choose words and letters from the screen. To help him, the computer holds a vocabulary of frequently used words, which can be printed from their first letter. He uses one key to construct the sentence, and when he's finished it, he presses the other key to activate the synthesizer.
I would like the new Backstreet Boys CD, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Last year, his computer helped Tony raise £4,000 for children in need.
Digital technology is helping people in many important ways. It's also transforming the way we get information and have fun with digital music, digital television, and the internet.
To find out how these work, watch part 2.
The digital world is causing a revolution in the way we communicate with each other, through mobile phones, email, and the internet. It's bringing a vast number of new television channels, and even changing the way we receive music. Recording for their new CD, the rock band Glider wants the best sound quality they can get. Today, the choice is almost automatically digital. But what is digital sound? The music is first of all recorded onto tape and then converted into digital signals. In the converter, the sound waves are measured over 44,000 times a second, and the output converted into binary code. The binary code is a bit stream of ones and zeros, which carry the music information. The more often the sound wave is sampled, the closer the digital signal is to the original. Magnify the signal and it reveals the sampling process. Each little step represents a 44,000th of a second.
Once we have our signal in digital form, then we can store each bit individually. And then to make a copy of the signal, it's very easy. We can make a perfect copy every time. The digital information on a CD is stored as tiny pits on the surface of a plastic disc, which is then coated with a reflective layer and read using a laser. Here you see a picture of the surface of the CD magnified. These pits are very small. They're about 1 micron, that's 1/1,000,000th of a meter long and half a micron wide. They're organized in the form of a spiral starting from the center of the disc. And if you were to stretch this spiral out, you get a line that's 8 kilometers long.
To show you how small they are, in a city the size of Tokyo, a single pit is about the size of a football. The pits are separated by flats. A 1 is represented by the edge between a pit and a flat. Everything else is a 0. So this is a 1, and so is this, but all the rest are zeros. To play a CD, a laser beam is directed at the surface, and as the disc spins, the pits absorb the light and the flats reflect it, resulting in a stream of light pulses. The stream is read as a series of 1s and 0s and can be converted back into analog sound.
Now recently the technology has improved even further. They've managed to make the pits smaller and the tracks closer and put the data on multiple surfaces to put gigabytes, that's 1,000 megabytes of information on the same piece of plastic, giving us the DVD, or the digital versatile disc. It's called versatile because it can store not only audio and computer data, but also pictures and video as well. The DVD-ROM can store 4.7 gigabytes of data on one of its surfaces. Now, it's likely that in the future, a recordable version of DVD will replace our current magnetic tapes that we use for video recording.
The difference with the DVD is that it has 2 layers of information instead of 1. The top layer is semi-transparent, so that the beam can pass straight through it. Then, in order to read the top layer, the laser beam is refocused.
This is a DVD, and it looks very much like an ordinary CD. The really interesting question is, how can we compress pictures and sound to such an extent that we can put a 2.5-hour feature film onto one of these and have better quality than ordinary videotape?
To reach a worldwide agreement on how to compress picture and sound for digital recording took 2 groups of scientists, one for still pictures, whose initials were JPEG, and one for moving pictures with the initials MPEG.
Let's start with JPEG, the standard for coding pictures. If you've got a digital picture, it's already made of little picture elements or pixels.
JPEG decided to divide the picture into blocks and divide each block into 64 pixels.
Once you've got your picture divided up into blocks, then you can treat these blocks separately. It turns out that instead of sending the pixel values in each block, we can use a set of standard patterns, 64 standard patterns, which are shown here, and build up these blocks by combining these patterns.
Instead of sending all the pixels, we can send just 3 of the standard patterns. Using a combination of, say, 50% of one pattern, 30% of another, and 20% of the third, we can represent that block, and the decoder at the receiving end will recreate it correctly.
But what you see here is that you can get a reasonable amount of compression and still maintain a good quality in your image.
Compressing data in this way has put a powerful tool in the hands of anyone equipped to use it, like these students at Bacon's College in London.
We're designing and making a web page for our school to put on the internet.
Almost anyone with a computer and a modem can now publish and broadcast their work all over the world.
Oh, it's really simple. We just take the pictures and we download them onto the computer and then save it onto disk and put it onto our web page. The image we're creating is like showing people everything that goes on in our school, like how good the facilities are and stuff.
Oh, you can zoom in it.
Digital pictures can be easily manipulated.
Paste it, Jonathan.
They can be moved about, resized and combined with text.
I want it to be user-friendly so that anyone could really use it.
The ease with which still photographs can be placed on the web is gradually being matched by moving pictures, which require vastly more data. Keith Diamond takes up this point.
What did the MPEG, the Moving Pictures Expert Group, come up with for data compression for moving images? Well, when we look at television, we're really seeing a series of still images being produced, or still frames. On the screen, at the top, the two coloured images represent two consecutive frames of a TV picture. Below it, we have the difference between those two frames, and the difference due to motion. Now, in that lower picture, the black area is where there is no change due to motion. The highlighted area represents where there is a change due to motion. Obviously, we see there's not a lot of motion. So the clever thing about the MPEG group was that they decided to send information about the change in pictures rather than the complete picture themselves. And we do this by calculating something called motion vectors. We'll see here we've got a horse, and there it is, it's jumping through water, and you can look and see where every single drop of water goes and all the rest of it. Now, what we'll do now is to replay that clip, but this time with the motion vectors. So you can see the motion vectors are the white things, and you can see that they are changing in magnitude, and they're also changing in orientation.
See how the vectors are biggest where there is the most movement.
And it's that which is determining how one frame leads into the next. And it's that which is used by the MPEG encoder to be able to produce the next frame.
Thanks to compression, we can send and receive hundreds of television channels by cable and satellite.
A naked streaker?
Excuse me? Forces of nature.
5 channels will fit into the space formerly occupied by 1. Digital compression also makes possible the World Wide Web and the Internet.
The World Wide Web are pages of information, electronic pages of information, which are sent over the Internet. In other words, down your telephone line, through a cable TV line, and what have you. The Internet is the mechanism by which the World Wide Web is delivered to us. The Internet includes not only just the World Wide Web, but also includes things like email, telephone, cable television, digital television, the general broad spectrum of digital information.
Tramper doesn't just use the web, he's building part of it. He's publishing digital information and images of the band in the hope of raising their profile.
This is our video page. On the left side of the screen here, you can see this is our menu bar. It shows all of the features of the site, the audio, the video, our current gig dates, photographs, a chat room, which is never too crowded. And our contact information, we've put our manager's phone number on there so he gets all the hate calls. Starting off with our audio page, the two most popular formats available, the Real Player format and the MP3 format. And as far as the compression goes, the Real Player files are approximately 10 times smaller than the MP3 files and don't have to be downloaded, but you do sacrifice some of your some of the sound quality. Real player. It sounds a bit like that. It's a bit muffled, but you do get to hear the file right away. But then the MP3, of course, pulled it straight off of a CD, and you retain that CD quality. We have visitors as far as Australia and Japan, and one of our lead guitarists has some Japanese groupies that he's acquired. Anyone can do it, and you can take a garage band and make them look like the Stones. Gotta sell the sizzle, not the steak.
In other words, whet the viewer's appetite so they want to go out and buy. Creating new markets, selling over the internet, is what Tim Moore and Nick Clark are doing all the time. They've set up a small company called Phenomenon Limited.
We provide large plasma screens, the big, thin televisions that our clients use to get their message across to their own customers. We have a website, bigtelly.com, and if you want to find out about us, you use a web browser and you go to that site. Once you're there, you can communicate with us by email. It's quicker and cheaper and faster than the telephone, and there's less scope for misunderstanding. The amount of information on the web is already enormous and is growing very fast. Every day, information is being added, removed, and reorganized. How do we know what's out there? How can we find what we are looking for? Solving these problems is essential for the future of the digital world.
Search the web using what is called a web browser. For example, here we are showing a program called Microsoft Internet Explorer. And this is a program on a PC which allows us to connect and read the information stored in the electronic web pages. The great thing about the World Wide Web is that it doesn't matter what machine I'm using. I can still read the web pages because I use a browser. One of the search engines which many people have heard of and is in fact the biggest at the moment is called Yahoo. Now if I'm looking for a specific subject, for example, if we were looking for the rock band Glider, we would simply type in at the top Glider and submit search by pressing on the search button here. The computer then goes away and sends that information to the server at Yahoo, which has all the information of web pages stored on it, and sends back what we call hits. So in this case it's given me 4 options to choose from, and I'm going to choose the most promising looking one. I'll click on that, and that's taking me to this site called Lifestyle UK. We've actually got quite a few bands here which have all got websites, and there we have Glider, and that there is a link. In other words, if I click on that, that would take me to the Glider band, rock band webpage.
Yahoo was the first search engine and is still one of the most popular. They employ people to sit all day searching the web for new sites to include in their directory.
The principal areas that I do are art, everything about dogs. I review the sites that come in from Italy or about Italy, sites from Iran and about Iran. I do a lot of stuff for travel.
I surf in sex and law mostly.
I used to get a lot of like my dog's homepage kind of sites that I just love. Oh.
Laws, it's interesting, I think, in its own way, but sex definitely has most of the appeal.
But even with people working all day, conventional search engines have a huge task listing the sites worth visiting. What's the alternative? Tim and Nick have won a government Smart Award to develop a digital assistant who can memorize what you're interested in and so cut down the search.
Welcome to Info Search.
The clever thing that's different about this here, rather than the previous search engine, is that he's got the ability to learn. It's an agent and contains what we call a neural network, which is a computer program a bit like your brain in the way it functions, and so it can learn.
Please describe what you want to search the web for.
So for example, if I now type in the word music into the search engine.
What Please, I'm searching.
This clever little chap here has come up with a number of sites and immediately picked out the fact that I prefer rock music and has picked out some of the bands that over the past week I've been looking at.
Hey, that tickles.
The bird is capable of automatically using the search engines that we saw earlier on, like Yahoo, but is also capable of finding out the sites which have a large number of what we call URLs, which are the links to other websites.
You can now refine your search or search for something else.
If Tim's intelligent agent makes it to the market, searching the web could be easier for everyone in the future. We'll get nearer to that dream of having computers which can answer sensible questions.
It's estimated that half the world's population have never made a phone call. Digital communication, with its falling costs and ease of installation, is making it possible for people all over the world to talk to each other. At the heart of the digital revolution, there is something that could benefit everyone: the global diffusion of information.
Among those who already benefit are many students at Bacon's College who've come to rely on the internet.
5 years ago, we would have still been able to write people letters, but now that we've got the internet, we can just send them information about what's happening over here, and so can they send information about what's happening over there. It takes about 6 days for a letter to get to Zimbabwe, and whereas with the email, it can take, 2 minutes for it to get there.
There is no doubt that we are living at a time now when the pace of technological change is faster than the world has ever known. How we use and adapt this new technology remains to be seen. What is certain, the future lies with all of you here.